all the way through the planning the last few years, what we've heard is that, to release funds from a trust account, you'd have to be a Class 1 agent. Then it became that it would have to be the nominated licensee in charge would be the only person able to release funds from a trust account. Now, it's still the licensee in charge, but there has been an important development in how the legislation is applied to licensees in charge. And again, this is coming from the Fair Trading website. So if this affects you, I really encourage you, in fact, I implore you to go and read that information on their website. So previously, Fair Trading had advised that only one licensee could be nominated for each business from 23rd of March. In fact, they sent out correspondence to all of the licensees in all of the organisations, corporations or sole traders that had more than one place of business, so more than one venue, and asked them to nominate who was the absolute nominated licensee in charge for all of those, the one person for all places of business. That's now changed. So great if you put that in, but now it's back to putting in something new. So Fair Trading have issued new advice and to corporation licensees that a business may continue to nominate multiple licensees in charge if it chooses to do so. Now, this means that corporation licensees that were previously asked to nominate that single one will no longer have to do so. If you've done so, go back in. If you want to have separate licensees in charge at separate geographical locations, then go back in and let Fair Trading know. Remember, the email address to do that on is propertylicensing@customerservice.newsouthwales.gov.au, all over the Fair Trading website. On almost every single piece of comms from them, you'll see that website, that email address on there. So a business can continue to operate with multiple nominated licensees in charge. So, of course, under the reforms, any person who's nominated as a licensee in charge must hold a Class 1 agent's license. So nothing new there. Now, part of what's new and the important development that I want to talk about is that under the current Property Stock and Business Agents Act, it requires a different licensee to be in charge at each place of business. So from 23rd of March, with the commencement of the new laws, a licensee in charge may be nominated to be in charge of an entire business, or there may be several licensees in charge responsible for different parts of the business. Please note that they're the words that are being used here, parts of a business, not place of business as in geographical, physical locations, but parts of a business carried out under that licensee. So long as no part of the business is left unsupervised by a licensee in charge. That makes sense. And, obviously that's just common sense, really. However, there cannot be more than one licensee in charge for the same part of a business. So again, that's really simple, that you can have one licensee in charge for everything, or you can have various licensees in charge for different parts of your business. But you can't have two licensees in charge of the same part of a business. So again, really quite sensible. You just have to read it slowly and carefully to make sure that you understand that that's what it's saying. So it's up to the principal licensee. So let's make that really simple. That's the owner of the business, for just simple clarity. So it's the corporations, it's the directors, it's whoever owns the business. If they've appointed another licensee in charge, it's fine. But the ones that own it, it's the principal licensee. Okay. Now, it's up to them to determine how they apportion the business, so that it's a part here, it's a part there, it's a part somewhere else, or it's all one big part. So it's all one big business. So, for example, a principal licensee may appoint a licensee in charge for multiple places of business. For one business, they might have a strata business, a real estate business, a property management, real estate sales business, a property management business. They may actually appoint licensees in charge for different parts of that. And that brings it down to the trust accounting. If somebody was in charge of the sales section of the business, then they would obviously be the licensee in charge for the disbursement of funds from the sales trust, and on and on. So that's where that's coming from. So because it still remains that it's only the licensee in charge who can withdraw funds from a general trust account, or from trust accounts generally. So withdrawing the funds, being restricted to the licensees in charge only, If you have separate sections or parts of your business, the sales part, you would inform Fair Trading that you want a licensee in charge for that part of the business. So, it still needs to be that Class 1 nominated licensee in charge. So what do you need to do? You need to send the email to Fair Trading nominating the parts of your business and who is going to be responsible for each part of that business. And of course, they're going to have to be someone who is eligible for a Class 1 license. So they'll either be, the nominated licensee in charge, so they've got to hold a license, or they will have held a license for, 2 years already. So, obviously, if you need to discuss this further, call the college. We'll talk about it with you. And those larger businesses that have been asking these questions over the last few months and years, I'll actually make contact with them to discuss this through. So if you've already talked to us about it, we'll be in contact with you. Most likely it will be me. So businesses will need to have a look at their processes, need to look at how you're going to structure yourselves. And we've been saying this for the last 3 years. You need to work out how you're going to structure yourself to make sure that there is a licensee in charge available to do what they've got to do. And clearly that supervise the business. And we're getting new supervision guidelines, and they are much, much wider than the supervision guidelines that we've currently got. And so that's really good for clarity. And Fair Trading have been very clear about if the nominated licensee is away from the business, whether they're on holiday, whether they're ill health, you'll have 5 days to actually, somebody else with a Class 1 license can step in and be the nominated licensee in charge, so long as within 5 days of starting to do that, they tell Fair Trading. And obviously there'll be processes on who to email and how to do that as the reforms actually commence. So as I said, this is an important development. I think it's a really fabulous development because, Fair Trading have gone and listened to industry of what's happened here, and they've actually had legal review of all of this and worked out how to do that. So it's actually, I think, a much better system of how this is going to work.